Hello, and welcome back to Toy Thursday with Johnny Tiger. The date is Thursday, of course, August 6, 2020. And right here in front of the camera, we are looking at three very heroic figures. In the center is Lionel from Thundercats. On the right, Prince. On the right is Jon Snow from a Game of Thrones TV series, and on the left is Prince Lightstar from Skeleton Warriors in the mid 90s. It's a cartoon from the mid 90s. I like martial art, and I like to train with swords and assorted bladed weapons, and I like action figures. So perhaps it's no surprise that I have a particular fondness for movies, cartoons, books that have some swords and sorcery and some good old good versus evil in it. And I also have a fondness for action figures that wear armor and wield swords. Now I'm sure some people are wondering why am I having three completely unrelated heroes standing together in front of the camera. Throughout cultural history, comic history, cartoon history, movie history, we see a very interesting phenomenon. Where the good guys are concerned, where the heroes are concerned, the heroes throughout the ages have changed very, very little. Way back in the beginning of human literature in Europe, one of the first hero figures was Beowulf, a fearless warrior of immense skills who slew monsters that were plaguing his people and later became the king of his people. He was strong, fierce, he wielded a sword, he wore armor, and he was the champion of the good guys. Later we moved down throughout our history. We see more and more heroes, such as Heracles or Hercules, as some people know him, Conan the Barbarian, uh, 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 and various Jason and Arnav, and various heroes. Heroes came and heroes went, all the way down the long river of history. And then we get into the 80s, we have He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, another big, muscular, good-looking chap with a big sword and interesting-looking armor. And then we have Thundercat. We have Lionel, who is, well, admittedly, not really human. He's kind of a cat looking species, but still, he is a fit looking, muscular, very virtuoso, very fierce fighter with a sword and interesting looking armor. Getting into the 90s, we got Prince Lightstar. That's the figure on the left there, from Skeleton Warriors. Prince Lightstar, again, very well built, uh, interesting choice of outfit, good armor, nice cape, big sword, and yes, again, very virtuoso. And then we get into the 2000s with the Lord of the Ring. We see Aragorn. Aragorn is another tall, lean, fearsome warrior hero, and good looking, wields a big sword. And then, on the heel of the success of The Lord of the Ring, came uh, George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones. And then, one of the main heroes in the Game of Thrones is the figure you see on the right. It's Jon Snow. Interesting outfit, good looking chap, young, fierce, noble, and he has a really big sword. That is my long-winded illustration of how, no matter how far we go in human history, the heroes have not changed much. It seems like our idea of heroes have remained more or less very constant. Give me our heroes about face so you guys can get a view at them from behind. All three heroes, they'll never meet each other unless they're on my shelf. They are from different worlds. They fight different monsters, different enemies, but all three of them are, without argument, very, very similar in many ways. All three are very idealistic. All three are pretty good looking in their own right. All three of them have pretty awesomely big swords in their hand, and all three of them are used to vanquishing evil left, right, and center. Well, maybe with the exception of Jon Snow, although he did kill a lot of the evil walker zombie thing. But anyway, I'm not going to go spoil the show for you guys. Although at this time, I think I am probably the only person in the world who haven't finished watching Game of Thrones. Uh, anyway, I'll get around to that sometime. But today, we are not really going to talk about the heroes this much. I have these fine looking characters here, mostly to help me illustrate how the good guys have not evolved down the centuries, unlike the bad guys. When I was little, when I first started collecting action figures, I couldn't quite understand why I often prefer bad guys, evil characters, over good guys. I actually thought that there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm just a bad person. That's why I like bad guys. But then, when I grew up, I realized that no, it got nothing to do with me being bad or good. It's because the bad guys has always been more interesting as far as design go. You see, while the good guys, the heroes and the beautiful damsel in distress, or even the powerful females, the heroines like Xena and Sailor Moon, or She-Ra, or She-Hulk, more or less stay constant. The bad guys are ever evolving. Today I'm going to show you just one of those lines of evolution because I love the idea of evolution, even when it comes to action figure. Growing up in a predominantly Taiwanese Chinese culture with a little splash of Japanese culture here and there, influenced by Japanese cartoon, I didn't know what a goblin was. Yeah, silly, isn't it? I mean, is there anybody now here in North America who don't know what a goblin is or what they're supposed to look like? Well, I grew up having no idea there's such a thing called a goblin because there's no such thing in Chinese comic book, Chinese mythology. Uh, goblin had no Chinese vocabulary associated with it. It's not until I came to North America and later when I started reading fantasy novels like Lord of the Rings that I realized there's this evil little annoying but not very powerful race of evil being called goblins. Speaking of goblins, here then is our first step of evolution of evil. This is the goblin called Swick. I only acquired him earlier this year. He's made by my current favorite action figure maker, the Four Horsemen, who used to work for McFarlane, the king of action figure in the mid 90s. The Four Horsemen were the four guys that did a lot of the sculpting and designing for McFarlane, and now they started their own company. You can get their action figures by going to storehorseman.com or just go on Google and do a quick search for Four Horsemen online store. You can't get their action figures in other mass retail like Walmart, Toy R Us, Target. No, you are not going to get Four Horsemen action figure in those places. Although there are some online retailers that carry them, like Big Bad Toy Store and Megatropolis and a few other places. Swick the Goblin is not designed like your usual Goblin. Your usual Goblin don't show up wearing heavy armor like this. Gorgeous design on this little guy. He's pretty small, but he is definitely not lightly armed. He's got his crossbow, he's got his heavy armor, he's got his big spiked shield on his back, and he has a quiver of arrows, and there's a sword tucked behind his shield right there. And he's wearing heavy spiked armor and a really rather impressive looking horned helmet. But no matter how well armed he is, Swick is still just a goblin. One of the little ones. A little, evil, annoying creature that usually their only purpose on screen is to get murdered in great number by heroes such as Jon Snow. Side by side comparison, hero, villain. As you can see, Swift the Goblin barely come up to the hero's elbow. So you can just imagine that our hero Jon Snow here with his big fancy sword can probably carve through a whole army of these little guys without ever blinking an eye. Well, maybe he can. I mean, he's really not all that impressive in the book or in the even in the TV series. But we'll give him some credit because he did manage to survive the entire show, which, if you know George R. R. Martin's writing style, that is quite an achievement all on its own. He likes to kill off his heroes in the most unexpected and gruesome ways. And Jon Snow was almost a victim of that. Anyway, spoiler, spoiler. Swick the Goblin. The first step in a chain of evolution. After Goblin, in J.R.R. Tolkien's world, Tolkien decided that the traditional goblins were no longer scary enough for his very powerful human warriors. After all, goblins, no matter how uh, awesome or how many, they were little guys. And there's only so much you can do with them. So in Tolkien's world, he created a new species of goblin called the orcs. The orcs are basically bigger goblins. They can stand up to 5 feet tall, so they're like the size of a small human being. They are much better armed and uh, stronger and more evil by far, such as the specimen you see here. This is one of the orcs from the Lord of the Rings. He's armed with a flail or cat with nine tail whip, and he's hunched. He has a a really lank looking hair, and just like Goblin, he got the big ears and tusk coming out of his mouth. Yeah, quite an unsavory character to be sure. This orc was produced by Toy Biz in the early 2000s. But as scary as the orcs were, they were primarily only scary to Tolkien's main characters, the little peace-loving hobbits. To a human like Jon Snow, an orc is, eh, sadly, still kind of lacking. He's not very big comparing to a human-sized hero. And again, you can just imagine Jon over there carving through a whole army of these orcs with his fantastic sword and his awesome swordsmanship, even though he really wasn't all that awesome in the movie or in the TV series. I'm trying to I'm trying to not let this turn into a Jon Snow bashing uh, video. But anyway, bear with me. I just love to poke fun at that character. I don't know why. I guess he's a pretty decent character, but I just personally don't like him that much. After the orcs, which turned out to be not very threatening to human and elves and dwarves, Tolkien added a new dimension in his Lord of the Ring novel. These, I guess you can call these the mega orcs, although in the movie they were called the fighting Uruk-Hai. Fighting Uruk-Hais. Uh, Basically, orc on steroid, such as this guy over here. Ah, much better. Look how much bigger he is comparing to the regular orc. He's at least 2 heads taller and a lot bulkier. That is Lurtz, the orc captain in the Lord of the Ring movie. He was quite fearsome, actually, in the movie. Very interesting villain who actually gave the heroes a really hard time. He's big, he's bulky, he's muscular. By the way, those weapons in his hands are not the weapons that he had originally. They broke. Uh, Quality control was really bad back then, so I had to outfit him with something else. Look at the bulk of this guy. He has really, really long hair, a lot of really big muscles, and a face that I think even his mother wouldn't really like. But at least the fighting Uruk-Hai were able to give the human hero, such as, yeah, you guessed it, here he is again, such as Jon Snow here. No, they weren't from the same movie, so they never actually met, but I have Jon Snow over here because he kind of embodies a lot of the hero design. Now, have these two face off against each other, and yeah, much better. Now this actually looks like it can be a very challenging fight for the human hero. He's finally facing off against someone taller, bigger, stronger, and probably can tear him in half with his bare hand. Much more interesting. As if the fighting Uruk-Hai were not scary enough. In a completely separate universe called World of Warcraft, they came up with their own idea of what orcs would look like. Among their orcs, there were a lot of legendary fighters. One of them was called Blackhand, one of the war chief of the orcs. Get a look of that. This is Blackhand. Blackhand standing next to Lurtz the Uruk-Hai, and the difference is readily apparent. Lurtz is taller, but Blackhand is massive. Look at the size of this guy. I can't even express how much I like this guy's outfit. He's got a pair of dragon heads mounted on his shoulder armor. I mean, that's just cool. Like, You really have to be a really badass character uh, to mount a couple of dragon head on your shoulder armor and carry them around casually. I'm guessing dragons are really big, and even small dragon, their skull would weigh something like, well, at least 50 or 60 pounds. So this guy is sporting at least 60 pounds of skull on each shoulder, and just that's not the only thing. Look at on his back, you can see the spine from the dragon hanging down his back. This guy's sporting like a skeleton of a couple of dragons as his armor, while wielding a big hammer that looked like it at least would weigh a good 80 or 90 pounds. It's huge. This guy is uh, when I first received this guy in the mail, and I took his box out of the package, I was honestly surprised at how heavy he weighs. He's only about 6 inches tall, but he weighs well over a pound. That's how bulky this orc is. If this orc was to fight Lurtz the Uruk-Hai, I don't know. Who do you guys think would win? My money would be on Blackhand. He's got way more mass on him. He just overall look like a way more powerful character. But what if he is not fighting his own kind? What if his opponent is, and yeah, you guessed it, a hero like Jon Snow? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Jon Snow's going to stand much of a chance over there. Although in the Warcraft movie, Blackhand was defeated in a rather humiliating way. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. Go watch the Warcraft movie. It's not fantastic, but it's not awful either. So is this the pinnacle or of goblin evolution? The orc, like Blackhand from World of Warcraft? Well, not quite. What can you get that is bigger, meaner, badder than one of the most powerful orcs in uh, fantasy world? This is an ogre, also made by the Four Horsemen Studio. 9 inches tall, with massive weapons in his hand, huge armor, a lot of muscle, and a pair of tusks that can put any orc or goblin to shame. This is the pinnacle of goblin orc evolution. Granted, he doesn't really look like what you would imagine an ogre would look like from the traditional point of view. But honestly, when you look this awesome, this big, this muscular, this scary, you don't have to look like a stereotype. Even The orc from World of Warcraft pales in comparison to this ogre. Look at that. Barely come up to his chest. And yes, of course, we have to bring Jon Snow back into the frame. I don't think he's going to survive this battle. Yeah, probably not. The size difference is just too ridiculous. Evolution is interesting to me. No matter if it's in culture, weapons, toys, animal, plants. And I think it's quite neat that we can see such a proof of an evolutionary concept, even in something man-made, something fictitious, like a little goblin that eventually evolve into a gigantic ogre. Thank you for checking out today's Toy Thursday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Fitness Friday. For now, be safe, have a good night.